Hey y'all, Devin here. And guess what? We are doing a review again. Yippee. The topic for today? A niche dungeon crawler roguelike called Delver that was released on Steam in 2018. It was developed by Chad Cuddigan and Joshua Skeleton. It was published by Priority Interrupt. I probably said their names wrong. Dude, please don't get mad at me. This is quite a small game. 200 megabytes in total, which is lovely as my laptop cannot seem to run anything unoptimized without crapping itself, so this is very nice. At a glance, I'd say Delver looks like one of those old indie dungeon crawlers you'd find on the internet. Pixely textures, evenly bit-crushed music, chunky pixel graphics, and combat that honestly looks kinda janky. So today I wanted to sit down and actually appraise Delver, as it's been sitting in my library for quite a while. Plus, I literally don't see anyone talking about this game on YouTube. Like, actually. I struggled to find accurate information on the game often, due to the lack of attention it gets. So hopefully this video might remind some people of it. Also, mind that I may get some things wrong in my review, and that everything I say here is just an opinion. If you disagree with me at any point, make sure to leave a comment to tell me why I'm wrong. So, with all that done, let's get to the basics, shall we? So if you didn't hear me the first time, Delver is a first-person roguelike dungeon crawler. You descend through procedurally generated dungeon floors, fight enemies, collect loot, and try not to die horribly to something stupid. Keyword try. Pretty basic and straightforward as games like these come. Nothing new here. It feels very akin to a game like Barony. To start, you have a health bar. Try to keep it non-zero. Health go to zero? You deadzo. There is no hunger system, so you don't have to worry about starving or anything. Food and certain potions just heal you over time. Unfortunately, whilst you may never get hungry, the denizens of the dungeon hunger for your life, and thus want you dead. Thankfully, though, you can fight back. Your main source of damage against them will be swinging around that sword that you start with, or any other sharp or blunt object you may come across whilst in the dungeon. Outside of pure melee combat, staffs and bows will be your ranged firepower. However, unlike most games like this, there is no mana system. Spells are cast not by mana, but by staffs and their charges. So your magical attacks are limited by how many staffs you have, and the amount of charges they have remaining. For bows, your ammo is arrows. No shit. You can find them on dead enemies, in boxes, or even on the floor. Oh, and you can also throw random items you find on the ground at enemies. Does doing this deal significant damage? Not really, but it's good to do if you find yourself with no arrows or magic charges. Speaking of damage sources, let's cover some of the enemy types you'll be dealing damage to. The game generally has about 3 different kinds of enemies, from what I noticed. The first kind of enemy is your basic run-of-the-mill melee user. Most enemies fit this type, and their AI is self-explanatory. They walk toward you, and they swing at you. Just backpedal while fighting them, bro. Don't get put in a corner and you should be fine. The second type of enemy can fly, like bats and stuff. Still very simple, just hit them with a ranged attack before they get close, or melee them before they hit you. Then finally, you have caster/mage enemies. Dude with a wand, magical balled fired at you. Type shit. You literally cannot fight these dudes with melee, as they can just cast their attack right in your dumb face. Use range to kill them or camp around corners, then hit them and run. Not all enemies fit purely into one of these types though. For example, some enemies can fly and shoot magic. However, generally speaking, most enemies throughout the areas are carbon copies of each other with slight stat changes. Finally, each floor, at least depending on the area you currently are in, can have different traps in them that make exploring around more dangerous. For example, you may occasionally find spike traps that periodically rise to skewer anything stupid enough to be caught standing on them, or pits that just instantly kill you if you fall in them. Lovely. Eventually, you will wander around long enough to find an exit. Climb down the ladder when you want to go to the next floor. And that's about everything I can explain for the main parts of the game. Now that introductions are over, let's get to the actual appraisal process. So, for our first category, which is gameplay, this review is already to a somewhat cooked start. For starters, I don't dislike the gameplay, but rather I feel that the gameplay is way too simple. For a roguelike, it really should be able to still feel like a fresh game start every time you play, as, after all, that is what a roguelike should be. However, with Delver, I felt like the game was way too samey, as runs somewhat started to blend together. The game, from my limited perspective, didn't feel random enough, as room layouts were too easy to run into again on the same run, and the lack of alternate paths made every run feel the same, as you would be going to the same areas every time. On top of that, the general lack of enemy variety makes the combat very, boring. Enemies can do 3 things. They can melee attack, they can fly, and they can shoot projectiles. That's about everything you can see. The only real difference between enemies of the areas is their stats. Everything else is purely cosmetic. All of that being said, I still appreciate the gameplay. With the limited combat options available, the combat is still charming. Melee is risky, but basically free as you'll always have a melee weapon on hand. Bows are good, but only having so many arrows requires you to only use them for high danger targets like mages or anything that flies. And magic is similar, but staffs only have limited charges before they become useless, giving the magic stat a use, as having a higher magic stat gives wands more charges. Speaking of stats, the game allows you to level up after killing a certain amount of enemies. You have 3 choices for the stats you can level up per level up, given at random. And there are about 6 different stats that you can level up. The level up feature is interesting, and I like the fact that you are actually able to build your character how you want. I also appreciate the fact that you can think outside of the box to kill enemies, such as by walking them into traps or throwing random items at them like skulls or books. So the game allows you to be resourceful in that regard. For my overall point estimate for gameplay, I'd say that Delver gets a 6.5 out of 10. It isn't bad, but I feel that the gameplay just simply lacks any form of intricacy that many roguelikes need to have. The core features are there, but the game is just not very fleshed out compared to other games in its genre. As for the story, well, there really isn't one. There are random notes you can find whilst wandering around that give random lore bits to you. But even after finishing the game, I still see quite the absence of any real kind of storytelling. I couldn't really even complain to you about the quality of the story as, well, there really isn't one, at least to my knowledge. All I really got from playing the game was about you, an adventure, wandering down into the dungeons in search of what seems to be an ancient artifact. I forgot its name, but it seems to be some kind of powerful orb, and you want it, for some reason. Outside of that, the characters are cool, I guess. It's obvious that the creator of the game had some kind of lore in mind for them, but said lore never really came up in my playthrough. The characters lack any form of story element to them, and seem to exist purely for gameplay purposes as shopkeepers and whatnot. Overall, I'd give Delver a 3.5 out of 10 when it comes to story. Although there was an attempt, I literally could not pick up on anything that would have hinted at a possible reason for why the game was taking place. Maybe I'm dense and just didn't get it, but from what I played, this is what I think should be the rating. Now, obviously one would think that it is unfair to grade a roguelike on story, as many roguelikes like Spelunky and Barony, which are generally considered to be great games in the genre, also seem to lack any major form of storytelling. But I also want to give an advantage to developers that can make roguelike games whilst also creating a refined storyline with it. This is why I'm including the story into my reviews. And now, we get to where I can finally start foaming at the mouth. Holy shit, dude. The art in this game is actually crazy. I don't know why, I don't know how, but the stylistic choices that the developers made for this game are beautiful. The areas look great, and I love the 2D/3D fusion that they were going for. The enemy sprites look lively and full of charm, and they blend perfectly into the well-crafted 3D environment that you adventure through. I honestly want to say more here, but I would just be going on and on about how much I like the art style. Overall, I'd say Delver gets a 9 out of 10 for art. It's just so good looking and somewhat makes me forget about the things I dislike about the game. Now for even more glazing. Violin Edition. Where do I even start? I've probably been playing some music from the game in the background whilst yapping to you this entire time. And honestly, do I even need to explain why the music is good? I'm no musician, but I know when a musical track is undeniably refined, and this rings a ton of bells for that specifically. The music works together with the art style to really sell you on that medieval fantasy setting, and how you're just some kind of young hero or something who wants to prove themselves in the dungeons deep below. The beginning tracks give a sense of adventure and sound triumphant and almost heroic, whilst the endgame soundtracks give a sense of panic and worry as you delve deeper into the caves and see the powerful foes down there that want you dead. Also, the title screen theme is also the best track in the game, and that is undebatable. For my rating on music, I'd give Delver a 9 out of 10, like for how I did with the art. It just carries the game so hard. If the music wasn't literally top tier like this, then honestly I might have just stopped playing like 10 hours in. That's how hard it carries the game. Now, with all the individual ratings done, what is the total overall rating that I would give Delver, and how much is it actually worth? Well, to start, let's recap the strengths and weaknesses of the game according to my individual rankings. At the top of the line, literal linebacker-ass built power machines, we have art and music. Both sections were given 9 out of 10, and for good reason. They literally carry the game, and are the main reason why I decided to even make this review in the first place. In second, we have the not so remarkable gameplay, with a 6.5 out of 10. Is it bad? No. Is it good? Somewhat. It's not that I dislike it, it's just that it feels very lacking and, honestly speaking, rushed. If most of the enemies in the game functionally act the same 3 ways, you might want to go back to the think tank and rethink how to design them. Besides that though, the gameplay is very fine. I like it, it's alright. And lastly, the weakest part of the game, the story, with a 3.5 out of 10. Is there a story? Yeah, sure, but I cannot for the love of God actually find out what it is, besides from the very vague notes you may find around the dungeon. It had a lot of potential, but just didn't seem to use it. So, with that all in mind, I would give Delver an overall rating of 7 out of 10, and I would say that the quote-unquote true value of the game would be about 15 USD, which is funnily enough very close to its actual price on Steam, which is also 15 USD, so it's exactly the same. I'd say this one is mostly worth it, and you will have fun with it for about 15-ish hours before you get bored of its eventual redundancy. It's a good game, but by no means a masterpiece. I'd say buying it full price at 15 USD is perfectly fine, but if you aren't someone who is a big fan of the roguelike genre, I'd recommend just waiting for a sale on this one, personally. And with that all said and done, thank you for watching my review. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment, all the usual YouTube things. Please make me money. And if you've played Delver before, please tell me I'm not the only person who can't land shots in this game. My aim is actually ass, bro. Please help. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm Devin, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.